gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting episode of Hoff Talk TV. I am your host, Robert Knight. You can follow me on Twitter at RobertKnight_. Follow Hoff Talk at Hoff Talk, and follow this guy, Michael Knight himself, at David Hasselhoff. Now this week, wanted to come at you with a very special edition of Hoff Talk TV. We're going to focus on the 1984 release of Night Rocker. Now, as you can guess by the way that I'm dressed, we're throwing things back. We're going back to the 80s and 90s this week with the Night Rocker album. And this jacket that I'm wearing, if you're wondering why it's a little flashy, it's from David Hasselhoff's 1994 World Tour. As you can see here, David Hasselhoff World Tour 1994. This was the official tour jacket worn by David and the band. In 1994, I was fortunate enough to get my hands on one and add it to my David Hasselhoff collection, so I decided to share that with you this week. If you're checking us out on HIACTalkRadio.com, basically what it is an Adidas warm-up jacket, has I guess a turquoise sleeve, a purple sleeve. It has the official logo of David Hasselhoff's 1994 World Tour logo. Very, very cool piece of Hoff history. Go to DavidHasselhoffOnline.com today. Pick up your David Hasselhoff t-shirts, CDs, tour books, bracelets, towels, you name it. DavidHasselhoffOnline.com. Click on the Hoff shop. Now, as I mentioned, this week, David Hasselhoff's 1994 album, Night Rocker. This is David's very first studio release album anywhere. It was released here in the United States at the tail end of 84, 85. It came out. It was basically released for David to kind of launch his music career here in the United States. Night Rocker was the idea of a producer who was a huge fan of David's. His name was, of course, Joel Diamond, who is still a very famous producer from Silver Blue Records, and incidentally is married to Rebecca Holden, who you may know from Knight Rider. She played April Curtis, so that's a little bit of side history there. But at the time, David was approached when Knight Rider was red hot to kind of launch his singing career in the United States, and the result was Night Rocker. This is a very, very awesome cover. You see David standing on top of Kit with the electric guitar, decked out in leather. It is, of course, a version of Michael Knight rock and roll style. Now, the album features, of course, Night Rocker, Crazy on a Saturday Night, Do You Love Me, which was David's single here in the United States from this album. Do You Love Me, of course, a famous song from the 50s and 60s, and David does perform the song in an episode of Baywatch. So you may have even seen David perform this song watching the episode of Baywatch, but that was the first single from the album. It also features Our First Night Together and No Way to Be in Love, which were both featured on the episode Let It Be Me of Knight Rider, which the album came out right around that time the episode aired, so you probably saw David performing with Catherine Hicklin as Class Action in Knight Rider. Those two songs are featured on this album. Our First Night Together was also released as a 3.5-inch CD single, which is very, very scarce. It's very hard to get a hold of, but if you have one, hang on to it, and it's definitely a cool piece of David Hasselhoff memorabilia. From there, David performed She Cried, Any Kind of Love at All the Right Moves, the awesome ballad No Words for Love. This song I would love to hear David perform live now. It's probably my favorite song on the album. It is, as I mentioned, it's a ballad. David actually sings a couple lines of this song in an episode of Knight Rider as well, so there's a whole lot of Knight Rider tie-ins with the album Night Rocker. The album was, of course, released on LP and cassette at the time. This version of the CD, Night Rocker, is an original release CD. It is very hard to get a hold of. It is an original release, very similar to the album. The album itself, Night Rocker, is probably available in more compilation CDs than any other CD that David Hasselhoff has released. There are different titles, such as For All My Friends, David, not the official album version David, there's another David, as well as David Hasselhoff, You've Lost That Love and Feeling. Night Lover was a compilation album / CD, which also featured most of these songs. So you can definitely get these songs just about anywhere on CD today, but as I mentioned, this is the original CD to go along with the album and the cassette, which were released in 1984, 1985. If you're interested in checking out the songs from the album Night Rocker, they're available worldwide on iTunes for musical download. You can also purchase the album on Amazon.com. which is very, very cool. Now you do get the original picture cover for the album if you buy it from Amazon, so it's definitely worth adding to your David Hasselhoff collection. Who can forget who brings to you this week's episode of Hoff Talk TV? It's Taylor Ann Hasselhoff with SkullsOnFireJewelry.com.
Are you tired of the same old jewelry everywhere you look? Isn't it time you spruced up your jewelry collection with some of the hippest, hottest, most happening jewelry going today? Well, Taylor Ann Hasselhoff is bringing to you SkullsOnFireJewelry.com. Skulls on Fire Jewelry features a huge line of unisex jewelry, rings, bracelets, necklaces, both men and women. Make a statement everywhere you go. Check out SkullsOnFireJewelry.com today.
Want to thank you once again for checking us out here at Hoff Talk TV, exclusively on DavidHasselhoffOnline.com and on the Tight Jeans Films YouTube channel, as well as on HIACTalkRadio.com if you're checking out the podcast version. Definitely want to check us out. You can take us on the go, listen to the show in your car, put it in your iPad, anywhere you want. You can download the podcast version at HIACTalkRadio.com. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you have ideas, if you have albums, CDs, movies, TV shows you want to see featured on upcoming episodes of Hoff Talk TV, shoot us a tweet at Hoff Talk and let us know what you'd like to see. We'd also like to feature you as the fan of the week. So if you want to be the David Hasselhoff Hoff Talk TV fan of the week, definitely send us a tweet and tweet your messages at David Hasselhoff and let David know you checked us out on Hoff Talk TV. Until we meet again, remember, one man can make a difference.